Today's video is all about fraction fun with pizza. When watching this video, you are going to learn all about fractions and how you can use them in a real life example such as pizza. Sit back and enjoy this movie on how we can learn more about fractions. You'll see here that we have our standards that we're going to be learning about, and within this movie we are going to look at, again, this is a third grade class, so we are going to be looking at the Georgia Performance Standards of third grade mathematics, and our first one is about knowing how to understand a fraction. We are learning how, 1 over b is the quantity formed by one part when a whole is partitioned into b equal parts. And this standard is basically saying that the students are understanding fractions and how they're written and how they're formed by parts of a whole, which is parts of a size. The next standard is basically students are explaining that they know how to use fractions and compare fractions by reasoning with their sizes. And so we're going to go ahead and start off with essential questions. We are looking to see, what is a fraction? What do we know about fractions? What is a fraction? What can you tell us about a fraction? When telling us about a fraction, you need to know two important things known as the numerator and the denominator. So you are going to need to be able to tell us, what does a numerator and a denominator of a fraction represent? These are very important terms that you are going to need to know when knowing what a fraction is. And following with our last essential question, what is a real life example of using fractions? So those are the three essential questions throughout this video that you need to continue to ask yourself, and at the end we are going to go back over them and look and see if we can answer from the knowledge learned throughout the video. What are fractions? Fractions are a number that represents part of a whole. Part is going to be on top and our whole number is going to be on the bottom. So we're going to look at over to the right hand side of the screen, and where we see 1 over 3, that is our fraction being represented here. 1/3 is our fraction. So 1 is going to be our numerator, and we are going to look at what a numerator is and how we know what a numerator is when looking at a fraction. So what is a numerator? We just saw that a fraction has parts to a whole. So our numerator is going to be the number of the fraction that is always on top. The numerator of a fraction is always the number on top. The numerator tells you how many parts you have. So in this fraction of 2/10, our numerator is going to be 2 because that's the number on top, and that's going to tell us how many parts that our whole is split into. So we know again that what is the numerator? The numerator is always the number on top. Again, our numerator is 2 in this fraction. Well, now we're going to look at denominator. We just told ourselves what the numerator is. Now there has to be something that the bottom represents. Well, the denominator. The denominator is the number that is on the bottom. If you ever forget, just think denominator. If you think about it, when you get demoted, you basically get put down to a lower level. So this situation, just kind of think to yourselves, denominator down, demoted, down, down, down. That is going to be the bottom number, and that is the number always on the bottom, and it tells us how many pieces to a whole that we have. So we had 2/10, and we said 2 was our numerator. In this situation, 10 is going to be our denominator. So I want you to go ahead and look at this picture and tell me, what fraction do you think represents this pizza right here? Again, we have a whole pizza. I want you to look at that. We're looking at this picture in front of us. We have an entire pizza, and I'm asking you the question of what fraction represents the whole pizza. Some of you might have steps that you do in this process, but before we go over those steps, we want to talk about what fraction represents the whole pizza. Take a good look at that picture and think, what fraction, again I'm looking my numerator and denominator, represents that whole pizza. And I want you to ask yourself, how many parts to a whole do I have? 8/8. That is the answer. That is the fraction that represents our whole pizza. 8/8 is equivalent to 1 whole. This is, getting into equivalent fractions, but I have 8 slices in that picture we just showed, and my fraction that will be represented is 8/8. So right here, I'm asking you a question of what fraction does the pizza represent? It looks like we had a burglar eat our pieces of pizza today, and I want you to tell me, what fraction does that pizza represent? Now our first step is, how many total slices were there? Were there is going to be your main strategy that you're going to want to look at. That's the question you're going to ask yourself. How many pieces were there? Well, we're looking that there were 4 pieces, and it looks like our burglar ate 1 of those 4 pieces. So therefore, the fraction of the pizza represented that's gone is going to be 1/4. So what fraction does the pizza represent that's showing? Well, we have 3 pieces left, so 3 out of the 4 are still there. 3/4 is represented. Now let's take a look at this one. I want you to tell me what fraction of the pizza is missing. Well, so let's first look at how many pieces of pizza were there, because that's going to tell us our what? Denominator. So look with me and count. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slices of pizza. We know that there were 8 slices, so that determines our whole. If we had 8 slices there, then that would be our whole pizza, and we're only looking at what fraction is missing. Well, if 1 piece is gone, then 1 of the 8 slices would be our fraction. So 1/8 of the pizza is missing. Do you see how I started with looking at how many pieces of pizza I had, and then looking at how many pieces were gone. Now let's look at this one. How many equal parts does the pizza have? I have put this pizza into a certain amount of equal parts. I want you to look at it and tell me, how many equal parts does this pizza have? This will help you determine your denominator. How many equal parts that something has always determines your denominator. So we've taken a little bit of time to look at this, and if you can count, this pizza is split into 4 equal parts. Therefore, if we were using fractions to represent this pizza, 4/4 is represented here. 4 out of 4 pizzas, which equals 1. Alright, that wraps up our video on this segment, Pizza Fun with Fractions.